Avatar: The Way of Water is the long-awaited sequel to the James Cameron film, the highest-grossing film of all time in America, and I think the world, I guess. But I want to talk a lot about the first Avatar as well, so it's going to be an extra long review. No spoilers for the second film. Now, Avatar, when it came out in 2009, I recently got a job at a movie theater that summer, so I was watching everything for free, and I watched that movie, and it was just such a dazzling, spectacle. I'm a huge fan of James Cameron. At that point, I'd seen The Abyss, Aliens, the Terminator, first two Terminator films, True Lies. I've seen all of his work, and Avatar was a huge, amazing technical marvel. It was a visual treat, full of giant. It was filmed with the special cameras for the 3D, so it was like a true 3D film. So I watched the film several times. I watched it in 3D, and then I watched it plain, watched it in AVX, and then I saw the re-release a couple months later when they added the extra 15 minutes or so. And I got the Blu-ray or DVD extended version, watched it with my family. But I hadn't watched the film in a long time. And before watching Avatar 2, I decided to re-watch the film. I re-watched the longest version, the collector's special edition with the additional scenes on Earth at the beginning and some other scenes that were really good. And that one is just shy of 3 hours. However, with the re-watch of Avatar, it's really dated. The film did not withstand the test of time. Back in the day, 2009, the MCU was just starting. I mean, the only really great films of that year were probably like District 9 and Coraline and maybe The Dark Knight a year before that. So 2009 was a pretty, it was over a decade ago, and it doesn't really withstand the test of time. The first Avatar film, it's mostly exposition for the first, I want to say like 90 minutes or so, and the only thing keeping the movie going is the world building and the romance, and then we get a full-on, half-hour action sequence at the end. So the movie still has the amazing action and music and the visual effects, but lacking in story or character development. Avatar: The Way of Water rectifies all that stuff. James Cameron, I consider him the king of sequels because Terminator 2 is way better than Terminator 1. In terms of scope and ambition. Same goes for Aliens. He didn't even direct Alien 1, but he added so much lore to that film. So when, they announced that he was making multiple sequels to Avatar, I was excited. And Avatar: The Way of Water absolutely delivers. The film takes place a decade after the events of the first film. Jake and Neytiri have started a family and have several children. They're living an idyllic, sort of peaceful life, hunting, fishing, building a family. However, the humans return in a very chilling sequence. The opening film scene of the film is a bit of a montage, and we get a chilling villain sequence where multiple ships show up, and the humans have returned. They definitely did not like getting their asses handed to them in the first film, so they have come back in force. So they actually come back with bigger numbers, more ships, more people, and they have built a small city over the course of a year, and they're hunting Jake Sully. They have a new unit to sort of go in there and hunt down Jake. So Jake and his family are now on the run. So there's a saying where if you have children, it's almost like having your heart outside of your body. That's kind of like this film. The film's new emotional core is protecting your family, which is something that was really absent from the first film. The first Avatar film just had the romance and the sort of, him getting his legs back. It was really, basic Dances with Wolves or Fern Gully storyline, so that's why people, or Pocahontas, that's why people didn't really like the basicness of the first plot of the first film. The second film, however, adds in this emotional core of protecting your family. Jake is now, more worried all the time because he's got kids running around that he can get killed at any time. So he's a lot more careful, and he tries to treat his family like a squad. Neytiri's a warrior, but his sons are not, and she often, butts heads with him over that. And that's sort of the underlying story. So the first, I want to say, hour of this movie is them being hunted by this new elite squad, and then them eventually finding a different tribe, a water tribe, way down on another part of the planet. where they learn the way of water. They learn to bond with water animals and diving and holding their breath for long periods of time. The middle section of the film is a little bit slower because we're getting into the environmental message. If the first film's environmental message was deforestation, the second one is definitely overfishing, because there are these giant whale-like creatures that have valuable resources that the humans want and hunt them often. However, they are, like, you know, bonded to the water tribe people. So the middle section of the film is a little bit long because we're getting a lot of world building and stuff like that. However, the last hour of the movie is just all action. You know, they're very similar in terms of plot, like structure, but better pacing, more humor and levity, I noticed too. This film is never boring, and his kids are very sassy. They learn all the human mannerisms from Jake, so there's a lot of funny bits here and there while they're trying to adjust to a new culture, a new, you know, tribe. And the last action sequences are just incredibly well directed. Just the camera swoops and follows people during chases, huge CGI battles, water battles, hand-to-hand combat. Just like, so there's some great angsty moments too. The film is never boring. The movie's like 3 hours and 12 minutes. It flew by. It honestly felt like a 2-hour movie. I was never bored. It's just a major improvement over the first film because you're getting all the action, the music, the spectacle, the visual effects, but you're also getting like the character development, the emotions. They introduce a lot of new characters in this film. However, they're able to do the hard work of juggling all of their stories and everything. So like Jake and Neytiri and their family unit's almost like one character. And so that's kind of like the protagonist of this film. And then they leave off a little bit for sequels, but overall, Avatar 2 is a major improvement over the first film. I noticed that James Cameron didn't write this one solo. He wrote it with like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 other people. So definitely a major improvement for that alone. I'm definitely excited to see what's happening next. And I give Avatar: The Way of Water an 8.5 out of 10.